Hi everyone, I'm JD from Willowbound Journals and I am excited to share my newest journal collection with you. You may have already seen a previous video on my channel sharing how I made the cover of this one, so feel free to check out that tutorial showing how I use 6x6 scrapbook papers and use a hinge to connect them. And I also shared in that same video how I make the pages too. So here's two of those pages that we made together using a hinge to connect two different 6x6 scrapbook papers. So that's one of them. Here's another. And then over for my members, I've also filmed a video showing how I filled up this journal with ephemera. Or was it this one? I had these two together. So I think it was actually this one. This is the one that I made first, and then I made this one, and then I also made these two. So I'm going to flip through these in order of the order that I made them. This one's a vintage French letters documents journal. This is a vintage travel journal. This is vintage music, and this is vintage sewing or vintage sewing pattern. So let's move those out of the way down here. They're a bit of an awkward shape. I loved using this shape though because it was just something different, and it's kind of slightly longer than a square. And I love this layers with the scrapbook paper pages peeking at the top and bottom. I just really like that. So it inked around the edges as well. Loving all the vintage pieces on this one. And then going in, we've kept the pocket in all of these and got a vintage French postcard in here. Look at that writing. Isn't that beautiful? So this one has a lot of authentic vintage French letters and postcards. So let's get into the flip through. Here is another postcard. Very, very cool. Vintage French letter here. And vintage ledger paper, another vintage French letter. Got these cool postcard cutouts that remind me of the cover. And then you can journal on those and on the back of those. Got an envelope here and some vintage ephemera is inside there. We've got another vintage letter here that folds out, double-sided. Here's one of our scrapbook papers. And all four of these, this collection is available in my Etsy shop, so feel free to check that out. The link to Willowbound Journals is down below in the description box. Another letter here. I love just seeing, old writing. We've got another bit of vintage ephemera in this envelope pocket, vintage ledger paper, craft paper, a vintage book page. We've got some vintage style label stickers and vintage letter here. Love this page with the ledger, so cool. Here's another vintage letter. I love that they fold out as well, so a lot of them are included in pockets, so you can use them however you want, for collage, to make tags, to add and bind into your own journals the way that I have in this one, like this. So cool. Look at that, look at that. Another little piece there. It's one of my envelope embellishments with a vintage French book page, and then I did some stamping on top. This is a really cool letter. It opens up not just once but twice, so really, really fun. And another little piece here. So many fun pieces. I also shared just recently for my members a video showing the vintage letters, like just some of them as I was sorting through them, going through them, choosing some vintage letters for a journal collection. So this is another postcard here, like how it folds out. And we've got another letter, well, not another one, that's going on to the other side now of this, like this here, another letter inside there, journal, and got another book page here. And more postcards here. Look at that script. Love that script. I've got another vintage French postcard there. Excuse me if I was sneezing on camera. I was trying to hold it in and it wouldn't stay in. Okay, so we have the next one, which is the travel themed one. So again, I'll have to move these off just a bit too big to fit both on the camera. So again, we've got a beautiful vintage French postcard in this pocket. And moving on, we've got cool vintage tickets and coupons and vintage French letters, vintage ledger. So kind of very similar to the previous one. Vintage ephemera in there and more here. But I did try to put a bit more travel themed things in this one, not just the French letters like this and this. And the beautiful scrapbook papers. Here's another vintage letter. Got some more little ticket pieces. This is another postcard. I love how this one's blank so you can actually write on it. More tickets. Another vintage French letter. And going through the other side, I'll try and race through this. This is another vintage French postcard. And another vintage French postcard. All these fun sticker tickets. They're really cool. They're really long ones there. More little postcard pieces. And a whole bunch of extra travel ephemera at the back that I just wanted to include with this journal. Alright, next one is, let's go the sewing one. So I just really loved the floral over the top, like the tissue paper and the collage. This is kind of the work that I do when I make pages. I love doing that type of effect. So, and I love this. So we've got a few different tags and pieces in there. And some of my collage pieces that you can either journal on the front or the back. And yeah, just this is actually kind of like my vintage sewing journals. The same type of thing with these types of papers and the same types of tags that I make from the pattern papers, but just in a different style. Usually I use a paper bag journal for it. This time I'm using a whole different orientation, sort of a long square, but I really love it. It's really, really fun. Vintage ledger, coffee dye paper, different pattern pages from various sewing patterns. So you can see like the different colours. It's got blue writing. There's an envelope pocket. Look at that sweet little bow. I love like the little dress on the pocket there. This is from a vintage. A lot of these tags actually I did collage and using papers from a vintage pattern magazine. So it's really cool. It's got some vintage ads and things like that. I love this one too. That's a really cool page. Craft paper, vintage ledger, coffee dye paper, pattern paper. Just a nice variety of pages. Again, one of my journal cards. Here's another one of my collage journal cards using doily and tissue paper and ledger paper. And love this one here too that I collaged with. Another card, journal card that I made with collage. And going through the other side, again loving this page there. Lots of tags, lots of things. Okay, lots of pages, more tags, and just a few more pieces of ephemera to go with this one as well. And then let's go on to the final journal in this collection, which is the music one. So again, we have a pocket there, and this one I left unembellished. I originally had two embellished ones, and then these two were unembellished because I thought that would give people options, because some people like embellished journals, other people just like plain ones more for writing and adding their own things into it. But I actually was looking through my stash cleaning up my tags, and I found all of these sewing tags that I completely forgot that I had, and I was like, oh, let's just put them in here. You know, if you forget you've got a supply, it's probably time to use that thing. So I put them all into that journal. So this one, I can definitely, if no one's interested in this one and it doesn't sell as an unembellished journal, I will go ahead and add some ephemera to it, vintage ephemera, and some music paper tags, and maybe some piano paper tags and pockets and things. But it's got all the same types of papers, some scrapbook papers, some music papers, feature a lot in this one: sewing and pocket pages, envelopes. Yeah, I did feature quite a lot of vintage music paper where I could, vintage ledger, just to go with that vintage music theme. So here I've got like the sheet type music paper and here this is scrapbook paper but still with the music and still vintage theme. Vintage music paper here. Again, this is scrapbook paper, but you can faintly see the music notes in the background. So where possible, yeah, just everywhere I could, music paper. Here's another envelope pocket. Love the craft paper actually in this particular journal series. I think it just goes really well with this sort of document journal type of collection. And the square size has just been really, really fun to work with. There's a little tip: if you're getting bored making the same types of journals over and over again, or you're lacking a bit of creative inspiration and energy, try a different style. That always helps me to get excited about doing something new and experimenting, going a bit out of my comfort zone. I remember earlier this year when I was really struggling with making journals because I just was lacking energy, and was at that stage of being like, I don't know if I even want to make journals anymore. I discovered the flip flop journal and I started making my own version of that, layering envelopes together in different ways. And I made a whole bunch of journals in that method because it was just something new and something different, and it really got my creative inspiration back, and love making journals again with that. There's another piece of ephemera at the back. And then, yeah, that was just a bit of a phase that I had this year, those envelope journals. And then this is another sort of phase that I have. This is the 5th. I've now made 5 journals in this kind of style, and yeah, just loving doing something different. So there's a little tip if you find yourself in a creative rut, or your joy for journals waning a little. Try a whole different style, maybe a different shape, different size, different materials to make it, and just see what that does for your creativity and inspiration and joy. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed that flip through. These are available in my Etsy, like I said. Check the link down below for my Etsy shop, Willowbound Journals. Hope there's one for everyone, like a different style, whether you like travel or document letter style, sewing patterns or music. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.